Hey guys, tonight we step into a world of heat, rhythm and devotion. A world so intricate, so overwhelming, that just standing still feels like a transgression. You find yourself in Thanjavur, southern India, in the year 1035. The air is thick with the smell of coconut oil and burned ghee. A peacock screeches somewhere, utterly unimpressed with your sense of wonder. Towering above you is the Brihadisvara Temple, the jewel of the Chola Empire, its sandstone surfaces practically vibrating in the sun. It's not just a building, it's an ecosystem. Priests murmur Vedic chants, dancers sway with controlled grace, traders hawk bananas, bangles and bronze figurines. The stone carvings curl into shapes that seem to move when you're not looking. You're already sweating, partly from the heat, mostly from anxiety. You probably won't survive this. You don't speak Tamil, you don't know the customs, and you're already attracting glances from people who dress like sculpture and move like thunderclouds. Good luck, outsider. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, comment below with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far this little bedtime history journey travels. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in a city that's equal parts power center, spiritual hub, and cultural symphony. The Cholas don't just rule, they choreograph life with the precision of a seasoned temple dancer. Everything from taxes to temple rituals flows in rhythm. And you're an offbeat note. Your cotton tunic already marks you as suspicious. Your empty hands, no offering, no incense, make you look like a ghost. The temple looms ahead. Brihadisvara isn't merely big, it's calculated grandeur. Built under Raja Chola I, this place was designed to intimidate, to awe, and to please the gods. The Vimana, or temple tower, rockets into the sky like a mountain of golden stone. It's capped by a dome so massive that engineers today still debate how it was hoisted up. Historians still argue whether it was done with elephant-pulled ramps or a spiraled scaffolding system lost to time. Either way, the result is the same. You're a speck beneath a stone sun. The scent hits first, floral, fatty, faintly sour. Offerings rot in slow motion in the sun. Somewhere, someone is deep-frying jackfruit. Nearby, 2 temple bulls laze beneath a tree, garlands of marigold drooping from their horns. You're not sure if they're pets, mascots, or minor deities. Probably all 3. You step forward. A boy, no older than 10, eyes rimmed in kajal, bumps into you with a copper plate balanced on one hip. Move, he mutters, not angrily, just practically. He has things to do, rituals to attend. You're just in the way. Welcome to the first 5 minutes of being entirely irrelevant. You keep walking, heart drumming its own awkward rhythm. Sand crunches underfoot. Your shadow slides against carvings older than any cathedral you've ever seen. And then, the music. It's not melodic at first, just a thudding drum that feels like it's coming from inside your lungs. A mridangam, struck with calloused fingers. Then come the temple flutes, their reedy notes curling like incense smoke. Finally bells, tiny, countless, relentless. The air changes. You swear the stone around you starts to shimmer. That's when you see her. She's dancing, not performing, invoking. She wears a sari the colour of pomegranate skin, and her limbs move in angles so sharp and graceful you feel like blinking is disrespectful. Her eyes lock with yours. You flinch. Behind her, more dancers wait. Not in rows, but in formation, like warriors waiting for a signal. You notice the heavy earrings, the hennaed feet, the waist belts hung with bells that make no noise when they walk, only when they choose. Quirky fact incoming. The oil in their hair isn't just for shine, it's for scent tracking. In this era, temple dancers are known by how they smell. Jasmine, coconut, vetiver. A sacred olfactory code. But you, poor traveller, smell like fear and foreign cloth. A priest approaches. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He flicks a few grains of rice into your hair, part blessing, part warning, and gestures for you to step aside. You obey. You'll do a lot of that here. It's not that people are unkind. It's that everything is rehearsed, and you don't know the steps. Every gesture here has layers. Symbol, duty, flirtation, threat. And no one's going to pause to explain them. You spot a basin of water beside a stone elephant. A woman in deep red dips her hand in, sprinkles it over her head, and walks backward, never turning her back to the temple's heart. You try to copy her. You fail. Somewhere, a parrot shrieks. A monkey steals a banana from an offering tray. No one reacts. Life in the shadow of the gods is busy, beautiful, and completely indifferent to your confusion. But you came here for a reason. To see the Devadasis, the temple dancers. To learn about this strange, sacred role that walks a line between divinity and danger. And you will. If you survive the heat, you're definitely not supposed to be here. The moment you step past the massive carved gateway, Purim they call it, you can almost feel the shift in air pressure. It's like crossing an invisible barrier into a place where the rules have nothing to do with you. Your sandals crunch on stone dust, and the heat from the flagstones below punches through the soles. Around you, figures move with such purpose that you wonder if you're the only one who doesn't have a ritual appointment. A woman carrying a brass urn gives you a look that's equal parts curiosity and irritation. She's wrapped in a translucent red sari, her torso smeared with ash, her arms taut from holding the heavy vessel. She sidesteps you, not unkindly, but decisively. You've broken the flow. She's heading somewhere sacred, and you're an interruption. Again, everywhere you go, you feel like you're trespassing on choreography. Because in Chola temples, movement isn't random, it's design. Every step follows a sacred map, from the outer courtyard to the heart of the shrine, from profane space to divine contact. The closer you get to the sanctum, the more tightly the rules wrap around you, and yet, you keep going. You duck through a side passage to escape the crush of pilgrims, and suddenly you're in a corridor carved in shadow. It smells like sandalwood and rust. The walls press close. Etched figures of gods and demons line the stone, some with eyes rubbed white from centuries of fingers touching them for luck. The silence here buzzes with its own tension. You're not sure if you're allowed in this hallway, but also not sure how to turn around. You pause beside a column carved with a many-armed goddess mid-dance. Her body curves with supernatural poise, frozen in motion for 1,000 years. Her smile is unsettling, not malicious, just superior. You blink. From somewhere deeper in the temple, a conch horn blasts. The sound ricochets through the stone like a command. Now, let's be clear, you're not in immediate danger. Not yet. But there are 12 different taboos you've probably already broken. You didn't wash before entering. You didn't make an offering. You're in foreign clothes. You stepped over a sacred threshold with your left foot. You locked eyes with a dancer during invocation. You tried to copy a ritual backward. You walked too close to the inner sanctum. You touched a sacred pillar. You interrupted someone's prayer. You didn't remove your sandals fast enough. You're unmarked by ash or turmeric. And worst of all, you're still breathing in here like you belong. Chola temples didn't operate like modern places of worship. These were total environments. Religious, economic, cultural, even political. Historians still argue whether Brihadisvara was more temple or theatre, because it held both ritual and performance in a single breath. You don't visit this temple, you enter it, like being swallowed by stone and music, and now it's noticing you. A priest with startling white hair rounds a corner and stops when he sees you. He's bare-chested, with sacred threads crossing his torso, and he carries a brass spoon used for ghee offerings. He looks at you the way a librarian looks at someone touching ancient manuscripts with Cheeto fingers. You open your mouth to speak. He raises one hand, not in greeting, in caution. "No further," he says, in Tamil. You don't need to understand the words. His voice is final. You backtrack. Somewhere overhead, pigeons coo in the rafters. A temple bell rings, flat, deep, meant to ground the spirit. And that's when you realize you're not being kicked out, you're being redirected. The temple is massive, sprawling across levels and rooms you didn't even see at first. It breathes with its own lungs, and it's not throwing you out. It's nudging you sideways, guiding you toward a space where you can be watched. Which is creepier, honestly. You emerge into a long cloister, open to the sun on one side. A banyan tree spills its roots across the stone like fingers searching for something lost. A girl, barely 16, kneels nearby, drawing geometric patterns in white rice flour on the floor. Kolam, it's called. Temporary beauty meant to please the gods and trip up evil spirits. She doesn't look at you, but she knows you're there. In a way, she knows more than you do. Fun fringe fact. The patterns she's drawing? They're mathematical. Some scholars believe these designs predate algorithms. You're staring at sacred floor algebra, made with the calm of someone who's done this every sunrise of her life. Behind her, a door creaks open. A line of girls in bright saris walks out in silence. Each carries a brass bowl, and they file past you without a sound, eyes low, movements measured, like flames in human form. Their ankles shimmer with bells, but the bells don't ring. That's not a good sign. When temple dancers move without sound, it means the performance hasn't begun yet. They're preparing, invoking. You're technically inside the prelude, another conch blast. A priest walks through with a torch, waving the flame in arcs before stone deities. Smoke trails behind him. You catch a glimpse of the goddess herself, massive, calm, stone. Her eyes are inlaid with something that catches the light. Maybe gold. Maybe something more unsettling. You shouldn't look. You do anyway. And for a moment, just one heartbeat, it feels like the stone blinks. You're starting to understand. The temple doesn't want you gone. It just wants you to understand your place. And your place is far beneath the ones who dance. You finally see them clearly. The Devadasis, the temple dancers. But the word dancer doesn't do them justice. These are not entertainers. They are vessels, instruments of divine will wrapped in silken rules. They enter through the northern cloister, feet bare, faces composed, each step practiced until it became instinct. Their saris cling to their limbs in folds so precise you suspect geometry's involved. Hair parted sharply down the middle, coiled into buns adorned with flowers, usually jasmine, sometimes orange canacambarum. Their eyes are outlined thickly in kohl, lashes flicking like punctuation marks after every glance. You think they're walking toward the sanctum. They are, but what's actually happening is this. The gods are arriving through them. This isn't performance, it's possession. You stand still and try not to breathe too loudly. There's no orchestra, yet. No audience, yet. But the air is charged. You're watching the opening beats of a ritual older than the Chola dynasty itself. The girls arrange themselves in a semicircle. Not randomly, never randomly. Everything here obeys hidden math, sacred geometry. You're starting to suspect you're the only one without choreography. A girl, perhaps 18, stands in the centre, the eldest, the lead. Her gaze sweeps over the temple grounds like a blade. She doesn't smile. Why would she? You don't smile in the middle of a lightning storm. You brace. Here's the thing no one tells you. Temple dancers aren't just trained, they're sculpted. From the age of 5, sometimes younger, these girls are raised within the temple grounds. They learn to sing, recite hymns, dance complex mudras, and read the rhythm of drums the way most people read books. By the time they're 10, their lives no longer belong to them. Their devotion is sealed by marriage to the deity, often Shiva or Vishnu. A ritual binds them as eternal brides of the god, complete with ceremony and feasting. Historians still argue whether this divine marriage was liberation or life sentence. You watch the younger dancers as they kneel behind the lead. They're children still, maybe 8, maybe 10, already schooled in the art of gazing without blinking. Their fingers twitch through the mudras, not fidgeting, practicing, always practicing. The lead dancer lifts one hand. The courtyard quiets. Even the birds seem to hush. Then, from somewhere behind the columns, the first mridangam beat lands. Boom, boom, tek tek. Her ankle bells answer, ting, ching, ting. And just like that, the ritual begins. Her eyes lock into a gaze so intense you wonder if it's legal in most countries. She steps forward, one foot brushing the stone in a semicircle. Her arms form arcs, symbols, not random flourishes, but messages. Mudras have meaning. This one's a lotus, that one's a deer. This one's a heart being pierced. You're not fluent in the language, but you feel it. The tempo rises. She twirls, but not like a ballerina. This is angular, sharp, and somehow fluid. Every stomp sends tremors through the ground. Every head tilt has direction. She leaps forward and stops mid-step, perfectly still, like a statue unfreezing just long enough to threaten you. You realise something else. She's not dancing for you. She never was. You don't matter. But something else does. Something you can't quite see. But you feel it. Hovering. watching, waiting to be pleased. Quirky fact: ancient Chola manuals actually listed the dance requirements for temple girls, including categories like eyebrow control and smile precision. These women were trained to control every muscle on their face like puppeteers of their own skin, and here's you struggling to keep your mouth closed. The younger girls begin to echo her moves, in delayed harmony. Their arms extend, their knees bend. A second rhythm joins. A singer, female, invisible to you, begins a slow, chant-like hymn. It's not quite melodic. It's more like she's pulling sound from her stomach and releasing it through her throat in spirals. You feel dizzy. It might be the heat, or the smoke, or the fact that the girl dancing is now spinning so fast her anklets sound like rainfall. But it's probably this. You're witnessing an act of worship that doesn't care if you survive it. A hand lands lightly on your shoulder. You flinch. It's a priest. Not the hostile one from before, but an older man with a face like folded linen. He gestures for you to follow him, not angrily, almost respectfully. You hesitate. The lead dancer is slowing now. Her chest rises and falls. Sweat beads along her collarbone, but she doesn't wipe it away. She holds the final pose, eyes wide, fingers like blades, one foot raised, body tilted in balance, then stillness, then silence. The mridangam stops, the bells stop, the voice fades. The gods have been summoned. You're not sure if they've arrived or if you're now supposed to leave so they can. Either way, you follow the priest. He leads you through another corridor, one you hadn't noticed before, past frescoes depicting scenes from epics. Krishna lifting a mountain, Shiva dancing within fire, Parvati casting a knowing glance over her shoulder. And now you're going where dancers go when they're not divine, where they sleep, where they eat, where they hurt, where they sometimes cry. You're going behind the stage. And you'll soon discover it's even more dangerous than the ritual floor. You step into a space that smells of turmeric and wet stone. The priest doesn't speak. He simply nods once and fades back into the corridor like a ghost who's completed his assigned haunting. You're in the living quarters of the Devadasis now. This isn't a room. It's a stone womb, warm and close, carved into the temple's flank and veiled with a cotton curtain dyed with turmeric and indigo. Light slants through a narrow slit in the wall, painting everything gold. Here, the dancers are no longer divine. One girl unpins the heavy flowers from her braid. Another rolls out a reed mat and slumps to the floor with the controlled exhaustion of someone trained not to show weakness. A third lifts her ankle, wincing slightly as she rubs a reddened bruise. The bells are silent now. The grace is still there, but it flickers, like candlelight after a gust of wind. You've crossed into something forbidden. Not because it's sacred, but because it's real. You're watching goddesses decompress, and they see you. One of the younger girls, no more than 11, tilts her head and stares at you like you're a badly behaved stray dog, not frightened, just unimpressed. The older dancer from earlier, the one who led the ritual, sits upright against the wall, drinking from a clay cup. Her sari is soaked through at the back, stuck to her spine. She doesn't look at you, not at first. When she does, it's a flicker of annoyance and curiosity. You realise something unsettling. She doesn't know who you are, why you're here, or what you want. But she knows you don't belong. The tension in the room isn't hostility, it's habit. These girls have learned that anything unfamiliar is usually dangerous. A new dancer, rival, a new priest, politics, a new patron. Probably want something in exchange for a coin. A strange foreigner who wandered into their quarters. A problem. You step back instinctively, hitting your elbow on a low-slung oil lamp. A little flame trembles but doesn't go out. One of the girls stifles a laugh. Not cruel, just amused. You've added awkwardness to your growing resume of sins. A soft voice cuts through. Sit. The lead dancer's command. Not a suggestion. You obey. She watches you, not with suspicion, but with an unnerving neutrality. Like a cat deciding whether you're edible. You don't understand what you saw, she says quietly. Her Tamil is clear, the kind used for scripture and ceremony. You nod. It's the only safe answer. She sips from the cup. People think we are dancers, pretty girls spinning to please gods. They're wrong. We are the voice of the divine. We don't dance for the priests. We dance to be seen by heaven. You nod again. There is nothing to say that wouldn't sound like a mistake. She continues. Our feet are washed with milk before we step on stage. Our heads are anointed with camphor oil. When we step into rhythm, it's not just movement, it's command. We remind the gods that they owe us their gaze. Pause. And we are never allowed to make a mistake. You swallow. That bruise on her ankle, not just from overwork, it might be from punishment or pressure, or both. There's a rulebook here so strict that even blinking wrong might count as a sin. Mainstream historical fact time. Under the Chola Empire, the Devadasi tradition was highly respected. These women received stipends, land, and influence. In temple records, some were listed above priests in the daily ritual hierarchy, and yet, one of the younger girls is cleaning her toe rings with lemon ash. Another is stretching her legs with visible discomfort. The older dancer presses her fingers to her forehead, eyes closed, breathing slowly, recovering from being divine. You realize this. Being holy is exhausting. Another fringe detail. Some dancers carried coded tattoos, delicate dots on the inner arm or foot arch, designating which deity they were married to. You think about that as your eyes drift down to the dancer's bare foot. You spot a tiny symbol, barely the size of a sesame seed, etched near her ankle bone. It looks like a crescent moon. Suddenly the curtain at the entrance rustles. A figure enters. Female, dressed in duller red. Older. Her hair is streaked with grey, but her spine is straight as a spear. This is not a dancer. This is a matron. And you immediately wish you had an escape route. She stops, takes you in, doesn't blink. In a voice honed from decades of correcting posture and backhanding arrogance, she says, "What is this creature?" You open your mouth. The lead dancer speaks first. "He saw the ritual," she says. "He didn't faint. That makes him curious, possibly cursed." Great. The matron walks a circle around you. She smells like camphor and smoke. Her bangles click quietly. Finally she says, "He should be cleansed, or sent to the kitchen." You're not sure which is worse. She turns to the lead dancer. "Make sure he doesn't cause offence," then to you. "If you offend the goddess again, she will not be gentle." And then she leaves, just as abruptly. The room exhales once she's gone. The lead dancer chuckles dryly and looks at you again. You're lucky she didn't dump you in the purification tank. You make a mental note. Avoid anything called purification tank. One of the younger girls pulls out a palm leaf fan and begins fanning the lead dancer. Another begins singing softly, a lullaby, a prayer. It bleeds into the background like music you've always known but never heard. You don't speak. You just sit, still, quiet, and realize that in the world of Chola Temple dancers, grace comes with rules that will break you before they ever bend. You wake before dawn because someone's already sweeping near your head. The bristles of the straw broom crackle across the stone floor, and the smell of burnt ghee lingers in the air. The dancers' quarters don't sleep late. Devotion begins before the sun even thinks about rising. You're groggy, slightly stiff, and aware that the woven mat you passed out on is exactly one thin layer between you and cold granite. Your neck has opinions. Your knees file complaints. Somewhere in the temple a conch horn sounds again, less like a gentle wake-up call and more like a divine air horn. And then they emerge. One by one the dancers file out again, freshly bathed and glowing with an unearthly calm. Their saris are damp from washing, their hair still dark and slick from coconut oil. Not a thread out of place, no slouching, no yawning, no muttering about needing more sleep. Just perfect posture and perfect poise. Even this, how they wake up, is ritualized. You trail them outside. The temple is bathed in soft blue-grey light, the kind that turns everything into a sketch. Priests move in ghost-like patterns, igniting oil lamps, drawing chalk lines at the threshold, and muttering chants that seem to come from their bones. You're not technically allowed to follow, but no one stops you, because now you're being observed in a different way, not as an outsider, not quite, as a curiosity that hasn't collapsed yet, a sacrilegious stray dog who, bafflingly, hasn't been struck by lightning. The lead dancer gives you a look over her shoulder. It's the kind of look that says, if you're going to keep breaking rules, at least learn to do it with style. You try to walk like them. You fail immediately. The way they move is different. Grounded but buoyant. Their feet seem to glide, and every turn of the head, every flick of the wrist is deliberate. The oil in their hair catches the early light and glows like polished obsidian. You get the sense that if they all froze in place, they'd turn into a living frieze, like the carvings on the temple walls had come to life. Speaking of which, you pass one of the outer temple reliefs, a row of dancers etched in mid-step, anklets chiselled with almost obscene accuracy. The resemblance is uncanny. Historians still argue whether those carvings were based on real Devadasis or idealized forms, but right now, the line between myth and reality feels paper-thin. A fringe tidbit you didn't expect. The dancers are oiled not just for aesthetics or skincare. The scent of the oil is a marker. In case of an emergency or a sudden switch of performers, each Devadasi must still be instantly recognizable by sound, silhouette, and smell. Jasmine means initiation level. Roses for rituals involving water. Vetiver, only for funerals. You can't even manage deodorant and a clean t-shirt before 10 a.m. The dancers gather in the eastern courtyard. The sun has just begun to crown the top of the Vimana. The lead dancer lights incense. She doesn't speak, but the younger girls copy her every motion like they're tethered by invisible strings. Then, the music begins. Not from instruments, yet, but from voice. One of the elder dancers begins to sing. Her voice is low, rich, smoky. She doesn't stand out. She's seated, legs crossed, palms on her knees, eyes closed. The notes fall from her lips like ripe mangoes, dense, sweet, slightly sticky with emotion. The song is in Tamil. You understand none of it, and yet you understand all of it. Loss, devotion, surrender. You feel it settle on your skin like dew. The lead dancer steps forward. She begins again, not as the deity's wife this time, but as the deity herself. Her hands move in patterns older than language. Fingers that become birds, flames, serpents, anklets that speak in perfect time to an imagined drumbeat. She's not performing for an audience, she is the audience. She is the offering. Here's the paradox. She belongs to no man, yet she is always watched. She's unmarried in name, but betrothed forever. She holds immense power, access to the sacred space, the ear of kings, and yet she's bound tighter than anyone. You feel like you're watching someone balance on a wire stretched between two gods. No one claps when she finishes. There is no applause here. That would be profane. She returns to stillness. The incense curls upward, and the air shifts again. She turns just slightly and finally speaks, not to the gods, but to you. You don't belong, she says softly. Not cruel, just true. You nod. But you're still here, she adds. That's interesting. One of the girls steps forward carrying a clay bowl. She gestures for you to kneel. You hesitate, then obey. She dips her fingers in a thick yellow paste and dabs a streak of sandalwood onto your forehead. The cooling touch surprises you. It smells of spice and damp earth. This marks you, the lead dancer explains. Now you've been seen. No one can pretend otherwise. Oh, great. Now you're officially visible. You stand slowly, the paste drying tight on your skin. Suddenly, a loud clang from the main temple. A call. Not for you, for her, for them. The goddess is ready. The dance must begin again, but this time you won't be watching from the edges. You're being brought closer, into the rhythm, into the rules, and you're not sure you'll make it out unchanged. The sun climbs, and the temple pulses. It doesn't just shimmer in the light, it vibrates, humming like a tuning fork stuck between heaven and earth. Somewhere behind the inner walls, conches blast again. Priests chant. Brass bells ring in uneven rhythms that feel less like music and more like coded instructions to the gods. You're summoned. Not by name, of course. The lead dancer merely flicks her wrist, a motion so subtle it could have been mistaken for swatting a fly. And suddenly you're moving, following her, your sandals slapping the hot stone in panicked little beats. The path winds. You pass half a dozen shrines on the way, each with its own deity, flowers, ash, flickering flame. You lose count of how many times you bow instinctively. You lose track of what rules you're breaking. You suspect the lead dancer is counting for you, and then you arrive at the purification chamber. It looks simple, a stone enclosure, open to the sky, with a shallow pool at the centre and a low bench carved directly into the wall. But the moment you step in, you feel it. The rules are different here. A younger Devadasi steps forward holding a brass pitcher. She's barely 12. She doesn't speak. She pours the first stream of water over your shoulders, and it's not warm. It's not even cool. It's frigid, straight from a stone cistern in the earth somewhere. Your back arches involuntarily and the girl smirks. Just a little. Then comes the turmeric. Another girl, older, more serious, dips her hand into a paste so thick it could stop a clock and slathers it over your forearms, neck, even the backs of your ears. You reek of spice and tradition now. You're glowing in a yellow so bold it looks like your skin is fermenting. "Don't wipe it off," someone murmurs. "Of course not. You'd never." The lead dancer steps in. She carries a thread, fine, red, wound 3 times, and ties it around your wrist without explanation. You don't ask. You wouldn't dare. But just for the record, here's your running tally of what's been done to you. Sprinkled with rice, anointed with sandalwood, slapped with turmeric, tied with thread, nearly frozen, definitely blessed, possibly hexed. You smell like a kitchen, and a shrine had a very confusing baby. The lead dancer steps back and finally speaks. "Now you're allowed to observe," she pauses. And only that, you nod. Carefully. Your skin crackles with drying spice. Fringe fact, turmeric wasn't just cosmetic. In Chola India, it was believed to repel bad spirits, cool the body, and mark purity. But there's a silent function too. It stains everything it touches. If you do anything forbidden now, you'll leave bright yellow fingerprints on sacred things. It's both a blessing and a trap. You're marked. From here, you're taken to the temple's inner courtyard, a place where only the chosen go. Pilgrims don't see this. Tourists never will. You sit behind a carved lattice screen, just low enough to be out of sight, just close enough to hear the soft jingles of the approaching dancers. The ritual begins again, but this time you understand the stakes. The lead dancer doesn't just perform, she invokes. Her gestures are so crisp they could slice air. Her footwork strikes in rhythm with the drums, but she never looks at the drummer. She doesn't have to. They're bound by training and intuition. This is sacred telepathy. She moves into a karana, a moment of transition between states. Her hand mimics fire, her body curves, then freezes. The transformation is clear. She's no longer human. She's channeling the goddess. And the goddess, she's not a gentle one. Mainstream fact. In many Chola temples, the primary deity was Shiva, lord of destruction, dance, and transformation. His consort, Parvati or Durga depending on the phase, embodied fierce grace. Devadasis didn't just honour these deities, they became their earthly proxies. You remember what the matron said. "If you offend the goddess again, she will not be gentle." Now you understand she wasn't speaking metaphorically. Mid-dance, the lead performer's expression shifts. Her eyebrows arch, her mouth tightens. She locks eyes with someone beyond the crowd. You follow her gaze, but see only shadows. Whatever happened, it was wrong. A step out of sync. A look given at the wrong moment. You think nothing happens. You're wrong. After the ritual ends and the dancers retreat, you watch a younger girl get pulled aside. She's maybe 14. Her foot had slipped, barely noticeable to you, but not to the others. A priest lectures her in a low, steady tone. She listens with her head bowed, fists clenched. The matron stands nearby, arms folded, her face unreadable. The dancer doesn't cry. She doesn't dare. Later, when you see her limping slightly, no one mentions it. Pain is part of the architecture here. Discipline is stitched into the hem of every sari. And you start to understand the crushing weight of grace. It isn't soft. It isn't gentle. It's precise, brutal, and unrelenting. To be a Devadasi is to live on a knife's edge of beauty and expectation. They are adored in public and scrutinized in private. One wrong smile, one misstep, one missed beat, and the illusion of divinity collapses. And behind that illusion, a teenage girl oiled and gilded, praying she doesn't fall out of favour. You retreat quietly to the shade of the corridor. You're no longer trying to understand. You're just trying not to be noticed. You don't want to be marked again. You don't want to carry another symbol you don't comprehend. But the red thread stays on your wrist, and the turmeric clings to your skin. And the dance is still happening, whether you watch or not. There's a lull in the courtyard now. The drums have gone quiet, the incense has thinned, and for the first time in hours the temple exhales. So do you. but not for long. A low whistle echoes down the stone passageways, sharp, deliberate, impossible to ignore. The dancers freeze mid-step. Even the crows pause their squabbling overhead. You watch as one of the younger girls, small with a crooked braid and a mischievous tilt to her eyes, is led away by a matron, gently but firmly. You don't understand what's happening, not yet. You follow, quietly, because of course you do. They lead her past the main sanctum, through a corridor you haven't seen before. The floor here is different, polished darker, softer underfoot. You round a corner and there it is, a room that is not part of the tour, a room no casual visitor would ever find. The Devadasi training chamber. It's not ornate. There are no carvings, no statues, just 4 walls, a small platform at one end, and a painted grid on the floor. The kind of grid that tells you exactly where your toes should go, where your hands should stop, where your eyes should land. And standing there, back straight, gaze level, is a girl of no more than 8. Her sari is shorter, pinned up to allow movement. Her arms are trembling from holding a pose. A matron claps once, sharp, and the girl drops her hands, panting. You watch as another girl takes her place, this one older. She moves more fluidly. The routine is clearly drilled into her bones. She begins with a bow, namaskara, then flows into a sequence of precise foot stamps and sharply arched fingers. The matron mutters corrections the way other people breathe. Again, again, again. You see now that devotion is built one blister at a time. You recognize the lead dancer seated at the far end, watching silently. She meets your eyes and raises an eyebrow, just enough to say, "This is what you wanted to see, isn't it?" You stay silent, because watching this isn't easy. You see more than sweat. You see pain. You see pressure. You see expectation stitched into every muscle. And you also see something stranger, pride. Because some of these girls, they want it. They crave the precision, the order, the reverence. It gives them power in a world where women, especially girls, rarely have any. Within these sacred walls, they are not daughters to be married off or burdens to be traded. They are vessels of the divine. They are lightning wrapped in silk. But not all of them chose it. One girl in the corner stares blankly at her hands, ignoring the matron's correction. Her movements are sluggish. Her gaze is elsewhere. She's not resisting exactly, but she's not there either. Not really. You learn her name is Amuda. She's new and she didn't volunteer. Fringe fact. While the Devadasis system was once regarded as a position of honour, historical records and oral accounts reveal a more complex truth. Many families dedicated daughters to temples as a form of offering, seeking blessings, or, as some scholars debate, to reduce the economic burden of dowries. Historians still argue whether the girls had any real agency. In Amuda's case, it seems she did not. You ask gently, what happens if a girl refuses to dance? The lead dancer snorts. Refuse? What does that mean? We don't refuse the gods. But she says it without venom, almost like she's explaining to someone from another planet. You press. What if she can't? A pause. Then she will be trained harder. You feel your stomach twist. This is the moment the illusion cracks. Just slightly, because for all the silk and scent and divine titles, you now see the scaffolding underneath. This isn't just sacred. It's structured. It's disciplined. It's mandatory. And it leaves bruises. You sit near the entrance of the room as practice continues. Amuda is called again. She drags her feet to the grid, starts the sequence. The matron's claps grow sharper. Then, snap. Amuda missteps badly. She stumbles forward, catches herself on the platform edge. Her eyes go wide. She expects punishment. But it doesn't come. The lead dancer rises instead. She steps onto the floor. Every girl in the room stops breathing. She walks slowly to Amuda, kneels, and without a word takes her hands. She begins the mudra sequence herself, slow, deliberate, paired with a whisper of rhythm. She guides Amuda's fingers, gently, like tuning an instrument. She does not smile, but her touch is patient. She repeats the first 3 steps, again, again, and this time, Amuda doesn't trip. Something flickers in the girl's eyes. Not joy, not yet, but maybe relief? The lead dancer stands and walks away as silently as she came, and you sit there, turmeric-stained and thread-wrapped, realizing that even within a system built on rules and ritual, there are moments of mercy. Tiny, flickering ones. They don't happen often, but when they do, they leave a mark. You're still sitting there when the matron announces the session is over. The girls rise, roll their shoulders, and exit in small, whispering clusters. Amuda glances back once, not at the lead dancer, at you. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't look away either. You stand, your knees crack. The matron ignores you. The lead dancer vanishes down the hallway. The training room empties, but that painted grid, it stays. Marked. Silent. Waiting for the next pair of trembling feet. The hallway outside the training chamber feels colder now. Or maybe it's you. Maybe the yellow turmeric paste has finally sunk into your skin, and the red thread tight around your wrist is starting to feel more like a leash than a bracelet. You trail the dancers at a distance. Not quite one of them. Not quite unwelcome either. Like a dog someone fed once and now has to tolerate. The temple is quieter at this hour. The morning rituals are complete. The midday heat creeps in. And for a moment you think you might just blend into the routine, until the drums start again. This time they're heavier, slower. They come from the inner sanctum. The girls don't flinch, but they do shift. They smooth their saris. They glance toward the passage that leads to the holiest chamber. You're not supposed to know what's about to happen, but the way their shoulders stiffen gives it away. This is not a routine ritual. You're ushered, pushed, really, through a side passage. Stone gives way to polished brass and sandalwood. The air grows thicker, the light dims, and suddenly you're standing inside the heart of Brihadisvara. It takes your breath. You expected gold. You expected carvings. You expected grandeur. You didn't expect this. The sanctum is small, shockingly so, but everything inside pulses with power. The lingam, Shiva's sacred symbol, towers in the centre like a mountain wrapped in shadow and oil. Butter lamps flicker along the base, casting halos of light that blur and shimmer across the polished stone. The smell is rich. Ghee, smoke, crushed marigold, and something metallic you can't name. Two priests move in tight circles, whispering mantras circling with offerings. The lead dancer stands near the threshold, barefoot, expression unreadable, a garland looped over one arm, and then he arrives. Not a god, a king, or rather, a representative of one. He wears a silk dhoti and gold bangles that look like they were stolen from a treasury vault. His forehead gleams with sacred ash. His beard is styled, manicured, and deeply intimidating. He walks like someone who expects space to clear before him, and it does. You stiffen. The dancers do not. This is the royal emissary, you realise, a man sent by the Chola court to oversee temple affairs, maybe even a relative of the king. His role here is ceremonial, but also surveillance. He ensures devotion is correctly performed, that funds are properly allocated, that dancers remain obedient. And suddenly, the phrase bride of the god feels a lot more political. The emissary doesn't glance at you, not even once. He focuses on the lead dancer. She bows, slow and deep. Her body folds into the kind of reverence that somehow still radiates power. She offers him the garland, which he takes, then loops onto the lingam in one fluid motion. The priests chant louder. The bells ring again. You realise this isn't just religious, it's legal. This moment is binding, recorded, filed, though not on paper, in memory, in routine, in the muscle memory of 1,000 rituals repeated with flawless precision. Historians still argue whether temple dancers held more spiritual or political weight in Chola society. Some records show Devadasis receiving land grants, managing temple assets, even lending money with interest. Others suggest they were little more than symbolic property. The truth is probably both, which makes it harder, because right now you're watching a girl perform grace with no exit strategy. When the garland is hung, the lead dancer backs away from the sanctum, never turning her back. Her arms fall to her sides. Her lips remain parted slightly in a final chant you cannot hear, and then suddenly, it's over. The emissary nods, just once. He turns and walks away, sandals brushing the stone like silk on skin. The lead dancer exhales, but it's silent. Her face remains still, but you catch it, a tiny shift in her eyes. Not fear, not satisfaction, something harder to name, aware, calculating, caged. Because here's what no one tells you about being married to the deity. You're also married to the state. You're a living ritual, a symbol of devotion, a flesh and blood placeholder for something divine, and divinity comes with surveillance. You're not just watched by gods, you're watched by kings. Fringe detail time. In certain Chola temples, dancers were expected to perform not only for religious rituals, but also for state events. The crowning of princes, the arrival of foreign dignitaries, even military victories. Their bodies became instruments of political diplomacy. The lead dancer finally turns to face you. You saw, she says. You nod. You still don't understand. You don't argue. She steps past you, trailing the scent of jasmine and exhaustion. You want to ask her something. Anything. Why she started, why she stays, whether she ever wanted something else. But your mouth refuses, because that look she gave you, just now, that was the look of someone who knows her cage is gilded, someone who's memorized every bar. You trail her out of the sanctum. The bells quiet, the chants fade, the dancers disperse like petals after a storm, and you walk back through the temple, past pillars and incense, thinking the one thought no one here dares to say aloud. Grace comes with rules, and the most dangerous rule, you don't get to stop dancing, even when your feet bleed. You think you've seen it all, the rituals, the sweat, the sanctum, the barely veiled politics. You think nothing else could surprise you, but then someone offers you food. Not just any food. A sacred meal, prasadam, blessed, prepared inside the temple kitchen, and served to you by hands that have memorized both flavour and ritual. You're led to a shaded pavilion behind the eastern cloister, where the scent of tamarind, mustard seed, and steaming rice hangs in the air like a thick curtain. Banana leaves are laid out in long rows. Clay cups of buttermilk tremble slightly in the heat. The food is not fancy, but it radiates sanctity. A girl motions for you to sit. You hesitate, because this meal, it's not casual, it's a test. You're eating among the Devadasis now. They sit cross-legged with perfect posture. Their hands form the shape of mudras even while reaching for rice. Every gesture is exact. Every motion follows an unseen choreography. And you're about to fumble lentils in front of people who dance with their eyebrows. One of the younger girls giggles softly as you try to tear a piece of idli without making it look like you're performing surgery. Another hands you a small clay bowl of chutney. Green, spicy, and designed to cleanse more than just the palate. You taste it. Your sinuses evacuate. The lead dancer watches you from across the pavilion. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't correct you either. That, you assume, is progress. Then the rules start unfolding. A priest walks between rows, inspecting the setup, noticing who eats first, who finishes last, who mixes what with what. You pick up quickly that touching the wrong dish with the wrong hand, finishing at the wrong pace, or even sighing too loudly is a ritual breach. Devotion, it turns out, continues even with your mouth full. Mainstream fact. In Chola temples, food was integral to worship. Meals served within temple grounds were considered extensions of the deity's body, meaning every bite was both nourishment and sacrament. You weren't eating, you were participating in a cosmic cycle, which makes you wish you hadn't dribbled tamarind rice down your front. You try to mop it up with your thumb and banana leaf. The girl next to you, Amuda, the hesitant dancer from earlier, hands you a fresh one without a word. Her glance is quick, dry, almost sarcastic. It says, "Amateur." You bow slightly. She snorts softly. You're earning your stripes. Midway through the meal, a bell chimes. Everyone pauses, hands mid-air. A priest chants a quick invocation, blessing the food again. You freeze, mouth full of something spicy and unfamiliar, and try not to chew too loudly during a sacred moment. Then you realize you've never eaten this slowly in your life. The meal isn't just about food, it's about rhythm, flow, reflection. Every spice tells a story. Every grain of rice echoes through your palate like a drumbeat. The women eat with grace that isn't rehearsed, it's inherited. And here's the kicker. This might be the only time Devadasis get to pause all day. Here, under this pavilion, while eating food laced with turmeric and silence, they can just be. No dancing, no chanting, no pretending to be divine. Just girls with tired ankles and complicated lives, eating in peace. Fringe detail. Some temples kept records of which dancers ate what, when, and where. partly to track purity before rituals, partly as subtle surveillance. The spoon you lift might have been marked with your role before you ever touched it, and that bowl, the clay might have been moulded by a caste that's not allowed to speak in the sanctum. Everything here is hierarchy masquerading as harmony. Halfway through your meal, Amuda asks, "Do you like it?" You nod, but she's not asking about the food. Her gaze lingers, searching for something, an exit, an ally, a witness. You don't answer. Not really, because you don't know what she wants to hear. The lead dancer clears her throat and the moment breaks. Plates are gathered, leaves folded. Water is poured over fingers and flicked to the earth in silence. The meal ends as it began, with choreography. You rise, belly full, throat still burning slightly from the mystery chutney, and follow the others as they file back into the stone corridors. But something has shifted. You're not invisible anymore. They know your name, though no one says it. You've been seen, fed, included, and that means one thing. Now you owe something. In temple life, favours flow like oil lamps, freely given but never forgotten. And if you've eaten the sacred food, shared space with the goddess's brides, and broken turmeric bread with their youngest, you're not just an outsider anymore. You're a variable, a moving piece, a person who can be called upon. And just as you're chewing on that realization, the matron appears at the end of the corridor. She points directly at you. "The festival begins tonight," she says. "You'll assist." You blink. Assist with what? She doesn't answer. She's already turned. And all you hear, as her footsteps echo into the temple's depths, is a single word whispered behind you. "Careful!" Night doesn't fall in the temple. It erupts. By the time the sun slips behind the horizon, the Brihadisvara complex is already transforming. Torches crackle to life in sconces carved like serpents. Oil lamps line the steps. Marigold garlands swing from archways. Everything glows. You've never seen stone look so alive. The air pulses with preparation. Priests carry brass vessels like soldiers moving ammunition. Temple workers shout instructions. Elephants, actual elephants, trudge through side gates with painted foreheads and bells tied to their trunks. You're swept up in the current before you can ask where you're going. Someone throws a garland around your neck. Another presses a small packet of camphor into your palm. A third shoves a bundle of folded fabric at you and says simply, "Wear it." You do. Because tonight is the Nataraja festival, a celebration of Shiva as the lord of cosmic dance. And whether you're ready or not, you're part of it now. Your new outfit is a cotton dhoti, dyed saffron and stiff with starch. It itches in places you didn't know fabric could itch. You're given a place near the second courtyard, close enough to see, far enough not to offend, and then the drums begin. Not the soft mridangam you've heard before. These are processional drums, giant, wide, and loud enough to rearrange your thoughts. Each beat lands like thunder. You feel it in your sternum, you feel it in your teeth. The dancers emerge from the eastern gate, but this time they don't glide. They stamp. Their feet hit the ground with force. Their arms swing wide, their eyes burn with coal and intensity. This isn't delicate temple choreography. This is something older, wilder, more primal. You recognize the lead dancer immediately. Her sari is red and gold, wrapped tighter. Her hair is crowned with fresh flowers. Her feet are bare, her ankles wrapped in bells so loud they threaten the drums. And then she does something terrifying. She smiles. It's not soft. It's not sweet. It's a challenge. Then she begins the Ananda Tandava, Shiva's dance of bliss. But let's be honest, bliss in Chola mythology looks a lot like war. She stomps, she spins, she freezes mid-kick. Her fingers slice the air into shapes that resemble fire and lightning. Her gaze locks on the deity's image as if daring it to blink first. You realize, this is not worship, this is confrontation. Mainstream fact. The Ananda Tandava is said to represent 5 divine acts: creation, preservation, destruction, illusion, and liberation. The Devadasi enacts all of them in a single performance, moving from serenity to fury in the space of a few breaths. And your breath? Gone. The younger girls follow her in staggered formation, each mimicking her footwork with practiced intensity. Their faces are masks, devotion sculpted in flesh. One stumbles slightly. The matron appears out of nowhere, hand on her shoulder. The rhythm doesn't break. Somewhere behind you, a priest is singing, his voice raw from effort. The melody coils upward, mixing with smoke, incense, and the dull roar of hundreds of watchers pressing against the courtyard edge. Then comes the fire. Small bowls of camphor are lit and passed hand to hand. The flames flicker blue-white, smokeless, hungry. You're handed one. The heat kisses your fingers as you lift it, awkwardly mimicking the dancer's fluid offering motion. The lead dancer moves toward the deity, toward the image of Shiva, radiant under golden lamplight. She circles, she offers the flame, and then she turns to you and the others and the night, and with a stomp that cracks like thunder, she begins the final sequence, the rain dance. Because this is more than art. It's a plea. The region has been dry for weeks, the crops are thirsty. The rivers are sluggish. And so tonight, the temple asks its dancers to move the sky. Fringe detail. The Cholas believed that a Devadasis performance could influence nature itself. If the dancer was pure, precise, and pleasing enough to the gods, rain would come. If not, well, people remembered, and reputation shattered. The girls begin to spin. Not like ballerinas, this is sharper, faster. They raise dust. The bells blur into a single sound, like coins shaken in a great divine purse. You think one of them might faint, but she doesn't. They dance until sweat pools under their chins, until their saris stick to their skin, until one of them stumbles and rights herself without missing a beat. The lead dancer lifts her arms, face tilted to the heavens. The drums stop. Silence. Then a wind. A cool one. You swear it wasn't there a moment ago. It brushes through the temple, through your hair, through the garlands, through the flames, even the elephants still. A single drop of water falls, then another. Then it begins to pour. Rain. Actual, unhesitating, roof-drumming rain. You stare, open-mouthed. The crowd gasps. Dancers collapse to their knees, laughing, weeping, or both. And the lead dancer, she just smiles again. This time, softly, because she knew. You run out into the courtyard, laughing without meaning to, soaked within seconds. Water streams down the pillars, across the stone carvings, into the temple's carved gutters. The scent of jasmine, sweat and rain mingles into something ancient and holy. And the bells start again. A low chant begins, dozens of voices unified by relief and awe. But you don't join in. You just stand there, dripping, staring at the lead dancer as she walks past you, trailing a stream of rainwater behind her like a river goddess. She doesn't stop. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. You've witnessed what she can do. You've seen grace break the sky. Morning doesn't feel real. The rain stopped just before dawn, leaving behind steam, puddles, and an unspoken reverence. Everything glistens. Stone, leaves, even the worn fabric of your borrowed dhoti. It's as though the temple has been polished from the inside out. But the air feels different now. You'd think rain would cool things down. It hasn't. It's only made the world heavier. Like the stone has soaked up not just water, but memory. You sit under a banyan tree near the southern wall, sipping lukewarm rice water from a clay cup. You can't stop thinking about the dancers, about her, how the storm obeyed her feet. It wasn't supposed to happen. You know that. And yet, it did. And now you're starting to see just how much happens here that isn't supposed to happen. Two girls shuffle past, whispering, eyes darting. One glances your way, then quickly looks down. They disappear behind a half curtain that leads into the Devadasis chamber. You don't follow, but someone else does. The matron. She's walking with purpose. Anklets silent, face unreadable, hair freshly knotted and dripping with the final strands of rainwater. You brace yourself, but she passes without a glance. You know enough now to recognize what that means. Something's brewing. Later, near the outer sanctum, you catch a flicker of movement behind the pillar-lined colonnade. Two dancers sit facing each other, a Muda and another girl, older, with a face you haven't seen before. They're not talking, they're scribbling. On a sliver of palm leaf. You can't read it, of course. The script is tight, stylized, but it's not a prayer. It's gossip, or maybe something worse. Because in this temple, information is power. A slip of palm leaf in the wrong hand can unseat a dancer, trigger a ritual exclusion, even catch the attention of the court. Mainstream fact. While Devadasis were celebrated on the ritual stage, their world was deeply political. Temples held lands, collected revenue, and wielded influence. Dancers were not just performers, they were nodes in a social network that ran from village granaries to royal courts. And where power flows, so does manipulation. Amuda looks up and sees you. She doesn't hide the palm leaf. She just smiles and slips it under a folded length of sari. Later, you pass by the main well where dancers bathe. You keep a respectful distance, but you can hear them talk. Low voices, not for your ears, but not exactly secret either. You pick up fragments. He's watching now, and didn't perform last month. Maybe she's bleeding too early. The last one strikes you. You realise they're tracking each other. Who dances when? Who misses rituals? Who seems distracted? Who seems favoured? This isn't cruelty, it's self-defence. Because being favoured by the wrong priest or dancing with too much passion or too little can trigger suspicion. And suspicion here carries weight. A dancer marked as impure even by whisper can be silenced. Fringe fact: inscriptions from Chola temples mention dancers being removed from duty for reasons that remain vague. Illness, rebellion, pregnancy. Scholars still debate, but the phrasing always hints at judgment, an unsaid line crossed. You begin to realise that everything in the temple exists on two levels. There's the visible, dance, devotion, flowers, flames, and the invisible, gossip, grudges, reputation, watchfulness. No one ever walks alone, not really. Even when they do, they carry the gazes of others like invisible veils around their shoulders. You wander back to the dancers' quarters. The space feels tighter now, less sacred, more strategic. Inside, Amuda sits with a bowl of crushed turmeric and ash. She's mixing something. When she sees you, she lifts the bowl slightly. "For the matron," she says. "Back rub." You blink. "She dances too," Amuda adds. "You think we're the only ones who hurt?" She stirs the paste slowly, deliberately. She gets blisters. "We all do." You remember the lead dancer's feet after the rain dance, raw, dark at the heel. Grace comes with calluses, always. "Do you ever want to leave?" you ask. Amuda doesn't look up. "Why?" she says. You hesitate. "Because it's hard." She snorts. "So is everything." She hands the bowl to a younger girl, then stands, brushing yellow flecks off her hands. You keep asking that, like you think there's somewhere else to go. You don't respond, because the answer is tangled in stone and ritual and centuries of inheritance. This temple is not just a stage, it's a trap, but one built so beautifully that many choose to stay. She walks away, but not before glancing back. "That palm leaf?" she says. "You didn't see it." You nod. Because the truth is, you did. And now you're part of it. Even if you didn't want to be. Especially if you didn't want to be. Somewhere nearby, bells ring. The next ritual is starting. You hear the scrape of anklets on stone. The scrape of discipline. Of watchful grace. And you wonder how many more secrets this temple can hold. And how many more you can carry. You're starting to feel like the temple knows your every move. Not metaphorically, literally. You pass a carved pillar and you could swear its deity's smile has widened just slightly since yesterday. You nod to a priest and he looks at your red thread before looking at you. Someone's always watching. You've accepted that now, but today someone different watches you. Not a priest, not a dancer, not the matron, a sculptor. You meet him by accident, hiding from the afternoon heat under the long stone awning near the temple's outer cloister. He's seated on the floor, back against the wall, fingers caked with powdery stone dust. Chisels and hammers rest beside him like sleeping animals. He doesn't look up right away, just keeps running his hands over a half-finished relief. Shiva mid-dance, arms outstretched, legs coiled, flame in hand. "You're the one following the girls," he finally says. His voice is like gravel dropped into oil. You blink. "I'm observing." He grunts. "So are they." You wait. He lifts a small chisel, taps it lightly on the sculpture's edge. Then, finally, he gestures for you to sit. You do. "You want to know what's really going on here?" he asks. You nod. "Then stop watching the dancers," he leans in. "Start watching the walls." At first, you think he's joking, or mad, but then he guides you closer to the stone panel, shows you where the joints are hidden, where the dance steps are embedded not just in posture, but in mathematical proportions. "Every relief here is a sequence," he explains. "A score. like notes in a raga. You think it's just art. It's instruction. Mainstream fact. Chola temples weren't just built to impress. They were built to encode. The proportions of temple sculptures often followed strict canons from ancient texts, like the Shilpa Shastra. Measurements, poses, even the angle of a deity's gaze had to be exact. Every image was a code of devotion. But this sculptor isn't showing you what's in the manuals, he's showing you what's between the lines. There, he says, tapping lightly on a corner frieze. See that dancer? You do? She's slightly off balance. Her hip juts more than the others. One hand curls back toward her head, not in a classical mudra, but almost like she's reaching for something behind her ear. That's not a mistake, he whispers. That's a message. You lean in. The carving's worn smooth from centuries of rain and reverent touch, but you can just make out the details. The girl's eyes are tilted away from the deity, toward a figure at the edge of the panel, a male sculptor, hands raised, frozen in mid-carve. You freeze. Are you saying? He nods. She was real. I carved her. A chill creeps up your spine. She asked me to, he adds. She said, make me part of the temple forever. So even if they forget me, I'll still be dancing. Did they? No. His eyes twinkle. Eventually. You glance at the carving again. What happened to her? He shrugs. I never saw her again. A beat. But her feet are still here. He leans back, wipes his palms on his knees. You think grace is only what you see on the floor, he says. It's in the stone. It's in what's left behind, and what's hidden. Fringe detail. There are actual cases of temple carvings showing non-standard gestures, facial expressions, or figures that don't match canonical pose guides. Some historians suggest these might be early signatures. Others argue they were secret homages, acts of quiet rebellion immortalized in granite. You walk with him deeper into the sculptor's workspace. Dozens of unfinished panels lean against the walls. He points out more subtle messages. Dancers with mismatched earrings, gods with slightly altered mudras, anklets carved just a little too loudly. Why, you ask? He chuckles. Because the rules are heavy, so sometimes we hide inside them. The echo of his words trails you as you return to the dancers' quarters. And now everything feels different. The patterns on the walls are no longer just decoration. The curves of the arches, possible footpaths, the temple floor, a stage layered with invisible footsteps from centuries ago. The dancers aren't just enacting devotion, they're continuing something. Something old, something encoded. Amuda passes you near the well. Her glance is quick, calculating. You remember the palm leaf, the whispers, the favour you now owe. And now you wonder, what has she etched into this place? What story of hers might be hidden in oil and stone and silence? That night, you walk alone through the main courtyard. The moonlight bathes the carved figures in silver, and you swear one of them, just one, winks. Not literally, but deliberately. Because now, you're not just watching the dancers. You're watching the walls, and they are watching back. By the time the festival begins, you're already exhausted, and it hasn't even started. You didn't expect this level of preparation. You thought festival meant a handful of garlands, some extra drumming, maybe an elephant in a slightly fancier hat. But the temple has become a different organism entirely. The air is charged, like lightning is pacing somewhere just outside the walls, waiting to be let in. There's colour everywhere. Crimson silk strung between pillars, yellow turmeric dust thrown across thresholds, indigo patterns drawn in impossibly fine detail underfoot. The entire temple feels like it got dressed in its wedding clothes, and someone handed you a broom and told you to help with the veil. You're conscripted into festival duty. No one asked, no one needed to. The matron finds you beside the flower cart, dumps a tray of ghee lamps into your hands and says, "North corridor, align them, even spacing. If they tilt, they go out. That's it. No instructions, no praise, just the kind of confidence one reserves for tools that are expected to work properly. And so, you work. You place each lamp with the care of someone who now knows the gods might literally be watching. You pass dancers carrying ritual plates, cooks hauling vats of spiced rice, and priests muttering over lists that probably haven't changed in 200 years. And then, the crowd arrives. Not just locals, not just temple staff. Everyone. Merchants, farmers, traders, mothers with babies strapped to their backs, pilgrims with shaved heads and cracked heels, foreigners from further north, even a few Tamil nobles under parasols observing everything with the polite boredom of people who can afford distance. And amid this crush of scent, sweat, silk and sandals, the dancers appear. You see them first as a flash of white petals moving through the red haze of the evening crowd. They're dressed in festival regalia now, heavier, more ornate, saris woven with gold thread, anklets stacked 2, even 3 rows deep, their eyes lined with more kohl than seems possible for a human skull to support. They move in formation, not like soldiers, like tide. You spot Amuda. She's near the centre of the younger group, face tight with concentration, hands already moving in small mudras to match the drum beats echoing from the sanctum. The lead dancer, she looks like the temple spat her out specifically for this moment. You cannot look away. She walks with power in her hips, fire in her eyes. Her hair is coiled and crowned in flowers so fresh you can smell the garden from where you stand. She's not waiting for permission. She is the permission. Tonight's performance is held in the outer courtyard, the biggest open space the temple has, just beneath the looming tower of the Vimana. The audience forms a dense ring around the dancers. Highborns get the front. Everyone else gets whatever inch they can claim with elbows and silent prayer. You get pushed toward the back, which is fine, because the sound is everywhere. The drums begin, multiple, layered, calling out to each other like old friends. Flutes join in, then cymbals. The air itself seems to tighten, folding around the rhythm like cloth. The dancers launch into group sequences first, synchronized and hypnotic, the sheer unity of it enough to make your spine tingle. Mainstream fact: festivals in Chola temples weren't just religious, they were community anchors. The temple served as theatre, town square, university and archive. Rituals during festivals could last days, and performances were as much a civic duty as an act of devotion. And this is theatre and thunder. You see mothers holding children aloft to get a better look. You see elderly women mouthing along with the chants. You see merchants pause mid-sail just to catch one final pose, and then you see it happen. A stumble. Not Amuda. Someone next to her. A foot lands early. A hand mistimes a turn. It's small, almost invisible, but not to the lead dancer. She sees everything. Her eyes flash. The routine shifts. Subtly, she adapts, covers the mistake, absorbs it, transforms it into something that looks deliberate. The crowd doesn't notice, but the other dancers do. They match her. They follow her lead. They save the sequence, and the message is clear. Perfection isn't absence of failure. It's the ability to swallow it whole and keep going. You glance at Amuda. She knows she saw it, and something in her posture changes. Slightly taller, slightly stronger. The performance builds, the rhythm accelerates, and then the fire sequence begins. Small brass bowls filled with camphor are lit and balanced atop the dancers' heads, palms, even the arches of their feet. The flames flicker, but the girls remain still, composed, glowing like human lanterns. One wrong move and someone could burn, but no one does, because tonight the gods are watching too closely to allow mistakes. The chant rises. The lead dancer begins her solo. It is not soft. It is destruction made graceful. Her body tells a story of cosmic collapse, of Shiva dancing the world into death so it can be reborn cleaner, lighter. Her face is fierce. Her movements are so sharp you flinch when her arm slices through the air. And the crowd, this sea of sweating, swaying, shivering people, believes her. You do too. You believe she could call down stars with her feet, that if she opened her mouth and named you, you'd vanish into ash, willingly. You're not watching a dancer. You're watching a force of nature shaped like a woman, and when it ends, when she freezes in final pose, leg raised, arms out, flame resting on her head, you realize something you hadn't before. She's not dancing for you. She never was. She's dancing for memory, so that centuries from now, someone chiseling a new pillar might still get her angle right, so that grace never forgets its roots, so that someone, somewhere, can't say they weren't warned. You follow her. Not consciously, not deliberately. Your feet just start moving after the lead dancer, like a boat caught in wake. The festival has ended in a storm of drums and murmurs. People are drifting away, still stunned, still blinking through the spell. But you're caught in the ripples of something unfinished. She disappears behind a row of pillars, into a corridor few dare enter. You hesitate, then you follow. The stone narrows, lamps grow sparse. The air smells less like flowers now, more like sweat and fire. You hear her before you see her, her anklets still ringing even as her steps slow. They're louder than the ones you heard earlier, almost like a warning. You round the corner and find her standing alone in front of a small shrine, not the main deity, not the crowd pleaser, a lesser goddess tucked into a dark alcove. The goddess's face is half worn from time, her expression unreadable. Her arms are broken, one breast chipped, but her eyes are intact, polished, shining. "She's the one I dance for," the lead dancer says without turning around. Her voice doesn't sound theatrical anymore. It sounds tired. You step closer. "She's not on the temple tours," she adds. "No gold, no stories sung by kings, but she watches all the same." You nod. You don't speak. "She's been forgotten," she says, "so I remember her." Mainstream fact. Many temples have side shrines or lesser deities rarely worshipped with the same grandeur. These figures often represent older local goddesses, absorbed, renamed, pushed aside. But dancers knew them, honoured them, protected them from oblivion. She kneels before the statue, not with ceremony, just reverence. "I was 10 when I first danced for her," she says. "No one told me to, I just did." A pause. "I think she saw me before anyone else did." She places a single jasmine flower on the base of the shrine. The scent rises faintly. You find your voice. "Why did you lead tonight's final dance? Was it always going to be you?" She glances over her shoulder. Always is a dangerous word. She stands slowly. Her sari is damp with sweat clinging to her back. Her makeup has begun to run at the edges. She looks less like a goddess now, and more like a tired teenager who just finished holding the cosmos together with her bare hands. She takes a deep breath. Then, "There are only ever 2 kinds of dancers in this temple," she says. "The ones who want to leave, and the ones who know they can't." You wait. "Guess which one I am?" You want to answer. You really do. But you can't. Because whatever you say, it'll be wrong. She moves past you. Her anklets sing again, ting ting ching, echoing down the corridor, and you follow, again. You pass the columns together, one by one. Your eyes trace the carvings, and there she is, her carving. You recognize it now, etched into the side of a low panel where most never look. A dancer in mid-turn, her body curved, her hand reaching, not in a ritual gesture, but something almost casual, familiar, human. The sculptor's signature is worked into the hem of her skirt. Hidden, intimate. You point. She nods. "He made me look braver than I was." Fringe detail. Sculptors in this period sometimes left tiny embedded messages, codes in jewellery patterns, positioning, footwork. These signatures weren't names. They were relationships carved in stone. "He didn't ask permission," she adds. "Were you angry?" "No," she says. "He was the only one who saw me when I wasn't dancing." Another beat. Then a whisper. "I wish someone had carved my name." That lands harder than it should. Because for all her grace, all her power, all her performances, there's no record. No palm leaf with her birth name, no page in the archive, no monument. Just a figure, twisting forever in a moment someone thought might be worth remembering. You look at the carving again. She looks like she's trying to step out of the stone, and suddenly you wonder, how many other girls danced their hearts out for gods, for kings, for priests, and then just vanished? No stories, no names, just echoes. The lead dancer places her fingers lightly on the edge of the sculpture. "Some days I think I am her," she says. "Some days I think I'm the girl who comes next." She steps back. The corridor is silent again. "Let's go," she says. You don't ask where, because in this temple you've learned, answers don't come in words. They come in footsteps, in gestures, in shadows that sing even after the dancer has left. You've survived heat, hunger, bruised feet, and rituals with more rules than your tax forms, but nothing prepares you for getting it wrong. It starts with something small, a whisper, a shift in glances. You don't feel it right away. In fact, your day begins peacefully enough, brushing the turmeric dust from your sandals, nodding at the matron like a mildly terrified intern, helping carry brass water pots without dropping any. Progress. until the lead dancer walks past you and doesn't look, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. You chalk it up to fatigue, or focus, or her eternal ability to exist in multiple emotional states at once. Then Amuda avoids you. Not just shy glances, she dodges you. Literally. Turns down another hallway. Doesn't wait for you to catch up, doesn't smirk, doesn't tease. Then it hits you. Something's wrong. The silence is sharp now. You're back in the dancers' quarters, supposedly to return a tray of flower garlands. But no one's talking. Not the younger girls, not the elder, not even the matron. And you don't know what you did. Or maybe you do. You go over everything. Every word, every gesture, and then you remember it. A slip. During the rain festival, you told one of the priests innocently that you thought the youngest dancer looked exhausted. Not in a mocking way, just an observation. But in a temple like this, an observation is ammunition. You hear whispers now. She said it in front of the wrong priest. She probably didn't mean anything by it, but if he reports it, mainstream fact. Chola temples were not just places of worship. They were highly structured bureaucracies. Complaints or comments, especially from outsiders, could affect not just one girl but her whole group. Even a passing remark could prompt ritual corrections or disciplinary reviews. So you've become a liability. Fringe detail. Some temples had rotating scrutiny from royal inspectors who observed not only the rituals but the dancers' health and demeanour. Anything less than full readiness could be interpreted as disrespect to the deity, and by extension, the king. You try to speak to the lead dancer. She won't stop walking. You call her name. She doesn't answer. The matron intercepts you. You don't speak for us, she says. Not to them. Never to them. I didn't mean, you begin. It doesn't matter what you meant. You stop talking, because you finally see it. There's no room here for well-meaning, just for correctness, and rhythm, and silence. You try to apologize, to Amuda first. She listens. Her eyes don't soften. She just says, "Next time, say nothing." She doesn't say it unkindly, just practically, like a surgeon explaining where you cut the wrong vein. The lead dancer doesn't speak to you for 2 days, but she doesn't need to, because every look not given, every greeting not returned, is sharper than any scolding. You start sitting by yourself, by the well, in the shade of the old banyan. You still help, still listen, still move as instructed. But you are other again. You thought you'd been accepted. But in a world where everything is ritual, there is no such thing as accident. You must re-earn your place, and it begins with silence. You stop offering opinions, you move when told, you watch more than you speak, and then, quietly, gradually, it changes. A garland is handed to you without hesitation. A younger dancer asks for help reaching a lamp hook. Amuda nudges a small bowl of sweetened rice toward your seat without comment. No one says, "It's fine now." They just resume being what they were before, dancers who carry grace like a blade, and who've decided, for now, not to cut you with it. And one evening, as the sun turns the temple into gold, the lead dancer sits beside you beneath the banyan tree. She doesn't speak right away, just watches the pigeons gather near the grain trays. Then, "You don't understand what you said." You nod. "No, I didn't." "It made her look weak," she says. You wait. And we are never allowed to look weak. There it is. The truth you've been dancing around this whole time. Grace here is not kindness. It's not ease. It's not forgiveness. It's control. Over body. Over gesture. Over face. Over breath. Over fear. The lead dancer turns to you. Next time you see a girl stumble, don't speak. Why not? Because if no one says anything, it never happened. She stands, brushing jasmine petals from her lap. And if it never happened, the gods stay pleased. She walks away. Her anklets ring once, then silence, and you're left sitting beside the banyan tree knowing now exactly how heavy grace can be, and how easily your words can tip the balance. The sky is bone dry again. The rain that poured down after the festival didn't stay long. It came, it dazzled, it vanished. Now the soil cracks like old parchment, and the air feels tense again, waiting for something it's not sure it deserves. That's when you hear it. We're dancing for rain again. The words come from one of the younger girls. She says it too lightly, like it's just another item on the list between clean the lamps and oil the hair. You're in the courtyard by now, And sure enough, preparations are underway. The floor's being swept not with brooms, but with leaves dipped in turmeric water. A grid has been chalked onto the stone. Lamps are positioned in specific quadrants. A brass vessel has been placed in the centre, empty, waiting. The air tastes like expectation. Amuda walks past you, her sari folded high for movement. She doesn't say hello. No one does. Not today. Today is for the gods. You watch as the lead dancer enters. No ceremony, just presence. She looks sharper. Not just focused, tense. Like she's fighting something off before it gets close. Then the matron steps forward and makes an announcement. Not to the audience, not even to the temple, just to the girls. You know the steps, you know the meaning. The rest is between your feet and the sky, that's it. No warm-up, no rehearsal. Oh, no fanfare. Just the drums. They begin with a soft, slow beat. Not the thunder you remember. Not yet. This is the drought rhythm. A sequence older than the empire, passed down like oral scripture, intended to stir the heavens, to call forth water, to beg through movement what mouths dare not say. Mainstream fact. There are documented rituals in South India where dancers performed specific sequences, often barefoot in extreme heat, meant to symbolize the suffering of the people and earn divine mercy. Drought dances were public, sacred, and politically sensitive. Today, it's all of that, and something more. You notice Amuda step forward first. She's leading. You blink. The lead dancer is watching from the side. This is her test. Amuda kneels at the centre, touches the earth, touches her forehead, rises. The dance begins, and this time the choreography is different, slower, lower. There are no high kicks, no flourishes, just grounded movements, steps that feel more like pleading than praise. Her feet slap the hot stone with deliberate pain. Dust rises, sticks to her calves. Her eyes remain low but focused. It's not beautiful, it's honest, and that's what makes it unbearable. You watch as she shifts through sequences, planting, drawing water, pouring, watching it vanish. Her fingers mimic cupped hands. Her arms draw clouds. Her shoulders sag with imagined failure. A chant starts. Low, minor key, not quite melody. And then the drums change. They build. And suddenly the other girls join her. The courtyard becomes a storm of bodies in ritual exhaustion. Each dancer bending, reaching, collapsing, rising again. The repetition is relentless. The heat is brutal. The chalk grid begins to blur under their bare feet. One girl slips. She catches herself. Another coughs, just once, but doesn't stop. You spot the lead dancer on the edge, gripping the base of a pillar, her jaw clenched. You realise she's not allowed to help. This is Amuda's moment. Fringe detail. In some temple traditions, a girl's first solo drought dance was a rite of passage. If successful, meaning if rain followed within days, she gained seniority. If not, her reputation could falter, and reputation is everything. The crowd is silent now, even the birds, even the wind. Only the bells speak. The brass vessel in the centre glows in the sun, still empty. Amuda finishes the sequence. She falls to her knees, hands outstretched. The others freeze around her, breathless. No rain. Not yet. They stay that way for minutes, still, sweating, silent, waiting. Then, a single droplet lands in the brass bowl. Just one. No one moves. Then another. Then a dozen. Then the skies open. Again. Gasps ripple through the crowd. A woman cries. A child shrieks in laughter. The priests begin chanting again. Louder this time. Urgent and giddy. The girls don't move. They stay frozen until the matron finally says, "Enough." Then it happens. The lead dancer walks across the courtyard. She kneels beside Amuda. She presses her forehead to hers. It lasts just a moment, but the message is clear. You're one of us now. Amuda exhales, shuddering, grateful, terrified. You stand at the edge, soaked again, rain mixing with the turmeric on your skin, wondering how many times a human can be broken and reformed in one lifetime. And if devotion is ever really voluntary. You look up at the clouds and wonder what part of the sky now knows her name. The rain doesn't last. By the next morning the air is thick with damp heat and slick cobblestones. The brass bowls left out during the storm are now filled to the brim, reflecting a milky sky. But the celebration is short-lived. Life in the temple resets quickly. The rhythm returns. The dancers are back to practice. The priests chant like they never stopped. The matron is already inspecting feet and faces. Nothing lingers for long here, not even miracles. But today's ritual is different. You're led, without much explanation, toward the northern boundary of the temple, near the shrines reserved for fierce deities. Not the calm, smiling stone figures of the main sanctum, but the ones with teeth, tongues sticking out, weapons in multiple hands, wide, startled eyes like they've seen too much and refuse to look away. This is where the firewalkers gather. You feel it before you see it, a thrum underfoot, like drums being played inside the ground, then the smoke, and then the heat. You reach the clearing where hot coals have been laid in a tight rectangular path, glowing like a warning. Around it, men and women gather, not dancers this time, but devotees, not graceful, not composed, raw. Some of them are barefoot already, pacing, arms raised, eyes wild. You're witnessing something older than anything else in the temple, older than Shiva even. This is folk devotion, the kind priests tolerate but don't control. A woman walks toward the coals. She doesn't pause, she doesn't flinch. She strides across the burning path as if it were grass. You don't believe what you're seeing. She turns and walks back, still no sign of pain. You glance at the lead dancer standing beside you now. They feel nothing, she says. Not when it's real. You whisper, real? When the goddess is in them, she explains, they don't burn, they don't bleed. And that's when you hear it. Bloodless curses. You turn to see the matron who's appeared, again without a sound. There are blessings, she says, and there are promises, and then there are curses that don't need knives. She leads you toward the edge of the crowd. A priest is there drawing a powder line around the coal pit, encircling it with turmeric and ash. The line is uneven, fractured. That's broken, the matron mutters. Bad sign. What does it mean, you ask? It means someone here made a vow and didn't keep it. Fringe detail. In southern India, certain rituals require vows to be fulfilled under specific conditions. Dances completed, fasts observed, donations given. If the vow is broken, it's believed the spirit of the goddess may withdraw her protection, and worse, exact a slow, invisible revenge. You look around. The firewalkers continue, some staggering, some shouting, some whispering names into the smoke. You spot Amuda. She's watching too, but her expression is unreadable. The matron steps beside her, leans down, whispers something you can't hear. Amuda nods once. You're not sure what that means, but it's clear. Something unspoken is being addressed here. Back at the temple, dancers are lighting small lamps in the shrines. You ask the lead dancer, "Do you believe in curses?" She doesn't answer right away. Then, "I believe in memory." You raise an eyebrow. People remember when you break faith. They don't need gods to punish you, just time. She walks away, the fire still flickering in her eyes. You sit down near one of the carved elephants. The rain has left a shallow puddle beside its foot, reflecting the charcoal clouds and fire in equal measure. A woman screams from the coal pit. You turn. She's collapsed at the far end, convulsing, not in agony, but in something deeper. Her companions swarm around her. Some pray, others hold her arms. You glance at the matron again. Is she possessed, you ask. The matron narrows her eyes. Or punished. The difference here is very thin. Mainstream fact. Possession rituals were, and in some places still are, a major part of folk Hinduism. During festivals, women especially were believed to become vessels for goddesses, speaking in tongues, delivering blessings or issuing warnings. These moments were sacred, but also deeply social, often tied to hidden grievances or communal tensions. Later, after the coals have cooled and the crowd has thinned, you find Amuda sitting quietly near the steps of the main mandapa. She says nothing. You sit beside her. After a long while, she says, "Do you know what happens when we make promises we can't keep?" You shake your head. They dance in our place. You stare. She looks at you, her eyes older than yesterday. There are names that shouldn't be whispered, gods that watch too closely, And if we break our word, something else will take the stage. You swallow. What kind of promise? She shrugs. Any. To leave. To love. To be more than what we are. And then, but we dance anyway. Because what else can they do? The firewalkers go home. The ashes swept up. The dancers light their lamps. And the temple, always, forgets nothing. You hear the whisper before you see her. She wants out. The words slither through the temple air like incense smoke. Hard to trace. Harder to ignore. You follow their trail, heart tightening. They're talking about a Muda. It starts small. A dancer lingers near her too long during practice. A priest speaks her name with an odd tilt. The matron watches her feet instead of her face. And the lead dancer, she doesn't speak to her at all, not with words at least. A Muda is still performing, still practicing, still showing up before sunrise with her hair coiled tight and her sari pinned sharp. But something's different now. She's not dancing like she plans to stay. You corner her near the back well where the older girls wash the oil from their limbs. Her hands are stained with sandalwood paste. Her face is tight. Are you leaving? You ask. She doesn't answer. She just looks at you like she's measuring a rope. Finally, can you help me? You pause. That's not what you expected. She stares, not blinking. Can you get me out? You glance around. The corridor is quiet, but quiet is never safe here. You whisper, "How?" She shrugs. There's a cart that brings rice from the edge of the city. It leaves at dusk. No one watches it. If I wear different clothes, cover my hair... She doesn't finish the sentence, because she can't. Not without shaking. You sit beside her, pulse racing. You really want to go? She meets your eyes. I want to stop asking permission to breathe. And that's when you understand. This is not just a girl trying to run. This is someone who has danced with gods, smiled for kings, memorized rituals she never chose. Someone who knows what freedom costs and still wants to pay it. But she can't do it alone. Mainstream fact. Historical records on Devadasis who left the temple are scarce. Deliberately so. Many were erased. Some were shamed. A few were even hunted. Leaving wasn't just rebellion. It was sacrilege. And now she's asking you to help her commit it. You want to say yes. Of course you do. But you also remember the girl who stumbled and was nearly banished for a misplaced foot. You remember the gossip scrawled onto palm leaves, the silent rituals, the firewalkers, the curses, and the lead dancer. What will she do if a Muda disappears? What will she say? What will she be allowed to say? Because make no mistake, someone will be blamed. Fringe detail. In some traditions, if a Devadasi fled, her remaining group could be forced to perform penance rituals. Barefoot processions, fasting, ceremonial isolation. The goddess must be rebalanced, even if the loss is not hers. You whisper, "Why now?" Amuda looks away. "I had a dream," she says. "I saw my feet bleeding, but not from dancing, from running." A pause. "They didn't hurt." You stare at her, because you believe her. Later that night the matron walks past you, doesn't stop, doesn't speak, but her shoulder brushes yours, just enough pressure to say, "I'm watching." And now the clock ticks louder. Amutha is packing nothing. She owns nothing. Her possessions are cloth and memory and turmeric-stained floor space. The plan is simple. She will disappear during mid-ritual preparations, when the dancers are washing and oiling and no one looks up unless a bell rings. You will bring her the disguise. You will distract the matron just long enough. You will do this. You must. Because if you don't, who else will? You find the merchant near the rice cart. He doesn't ask why you want spare clothes. He's seen things. He hands you a bundle wrapped in burlap smelling faintly of sesame oil. "Not my business," he mutters. "But don't be seen." You nod. You return to the temple, heart hammering. You find her waiting near the broken step beneath the old elephant carving. She's not shaking now. She's glowing. She takes the bundle, ducks into the shadows. The change is fast. Practice-honed efficiency. Her sari becomes plain linen. Her hair vanishes under a head wrap. She becomes invisible. You almost don't recognize her. Then she speaks. "Will you tell her?" "The lead dancer," you ask. She nods. You don't answer. Because you don't know what would hurt more, knowing before or finding out after. You escort her halfway to the gate. She stops. "I'll walk the rest." You hesitate. I'm not a child, she says. No, you whisper. You're not. She slips into the dark, and you're left staring at the place she was, a place now empty. You return to the dancers' quarters. The matron is gone. The lead dancer is kneeling before the lesser goddess's shrine. She doesn't turn. She just says, "You helped her." You freeze. She finally turns. She'll be blamed. So will you. You nod. She'll live, you whisper. And something in her eyes, something that was stone, cracks. She was meant to dance the next rain ritual, she says. I know. Silence. Then, it won't rain again for a long time. And the bells chime, as if confirming it. You leave before she asks you to, because you know the truth now. Grace can't be stolen, but sometimes it has to be escaped. The absence of a Muda spreads faster than gossip. And that's saying something. No one says her name. That's the rule. Once a dancer leaves, she becomes silence. Her footfalls are erased from the stone, her offerings scrubbed from the shrine records. But the vacuum she leaves behind pulls at everyone. There's an extra bowl of sandalwood paste at morning ritual. No one touches it. There's an empty mat during practice. The matron says nothing. The lead dancer, she does not stumble. She does not falter. But her movements, they shift. Just slightly. Sharper. Angrier. Her mudras snap like twigs in a dry wind. Her eyes no longer invite the gods. They dare them. And then the worst part. The priests notice. You see it in how they pause at the ritual gates. How their eyes linger on the dancers' faces too long. One of them, the older one with the red threaded beard, stops the matron mid-walk. We've lost balance, he says. The matron's smile is smooth. She's preparing for a different task. We weren't informed. She's not your responsibility, she replies. She is the goddess's. And there it is. The moment the whispers become charges. Mainstream fact. In temples where Devadasis served, missing a ritual, especially without explanation, could be treated as both personal failure and public offence. Even the temple records would show a blank space in the day's dance column, marked as interrupted grace. That blank space, it's now Amuda-shaped. A week passes, the monsoon does not return, and the murmurs begin. The rain has stopped. The gods are displeased. Someone failed her promise, and though no one says Amuda's name aloud, everyone knows. And they look to the lead dancer, because she led her, because she trained her, because she didn't stop her. You find her by the oil lamps one night, kneeling in a haze of smoke, cleaning soot from the brass with a rough cloth. She's working harder than she needs to. The lamps aren't that dirty. You sit. Blame won't fall on her, you say. She doesn't look up. Of course it will. She wasn't yours to keep. She was mine to protect. You're quiet. She sets down the cloth. Her fingers are blackened with soot, and when she flexes them, the joints crack faintly. I told myself, she says, if I danced perfectly enough, no one would ever need to run. And? Her jaw tightens. And they still run. She doesn't cry. She wouldn't dare. But her silence has edges now, sharp ones. And just when you think she might shatter, the matron appears. Again, as if she's materialized from smoke and memory. Come, she says to the lead dancer. The goddess must be answered. You follow. Not because you've been invited, because no one says no to a matron walking with purpose. They take you into the interior sanctum, not the main shrine, but a hidden chamber behind the primary altar, a space almost no one sees. Even most dancers don't enter unless they're summoned. The walls here are older, the carvings rougher. This is Chola, a place of the original goddess before gold and granite and kingdom. Here the goddess isn't calm, she's wild, her arms raised, her mouth open, her anklets massive. She was not made to be adored, the matron says softly. She was made to be feared. They lay a cloth on the floor. The lead dancer steps onto it barefoot. A priest arrives, mumbling mantras. He places camphor in a bowl and lights it. The flames leap high. What is this? You whisper. The matron answers without looking at you. A ritual of exchange. Exchange? If you lose one dancer, she says, you must offer something else. You blink. What are you offering? The lead dancer speaks now. My name. You stare. Because in the Devadasi tradition, the temple name given to a dancer is more than an identity. It's a binding, a contract with the deity. To renounce it is to sever something sacred. The priest begins chanting louder. The flames pulse, and the lead dancer kneels. You watch as she speaks her temple name aloud, once, then a second time, then she stops. The matron pours water over her head, jasmine petals follow, and just like that, her name is gone. Not in the legal records, maybe, not on the lips of the priests, but here, in this sanctum, she's no longer the girl she was. "You'll take another name?" you ask softly. She shakes her head. "I'll dance without one." Fringe detail. There are rare, whispered accounts of unnamed dancers, those who continued to serve the goddess but refused their temple name. They became ghosts of grace, revered, feared, half in, half out of the ritual world. As you leave the chamber, the matron stops you. "You did this," she says. You don't argue, but you ask, "Will she be punished?" The matron's voice is flat. She already was. You watch the lead dancer walk away, alone, nameless, barefoot across the cold stone. She doesn't turn back, because this is how a dancer says goodbye to herself, not with weeping, with ritual, and with no music at all. The next day, the temple is louder than it's been in weeks. Drums roll like distant thunder. Chanting rises from the sanctum. Merchants hawk offerings. Toddlers waddle through puddles of yesterday's rain that still cling to the stone like tiny altars. Everything looks normal. Everything feels wrong. Because today is the consecration dance. A new girl has been chosen. You see her from afar, no older than 9, her eyes rimmed in kohl too heavy for her face, her sari folded clumsily in a way that says she hasn't yet learned to hold herself like a sculpture. She will. She'll be trained, washed in ghee, anointed with ash, named after a goddess, and she will replace both of them, Amuda, who ran, and the lead dancer who shed her name like a second skin. You sit on the edge of the northern cloister, watching as priests carry in garlands, brass bowls and palm leaf manuscripts. The girl is nervous. She keeps glancing at the lead dancer's old mat. It's still empty. No one moves to fill it, because even in erasure some footprints linger. Then she arrives. Not Amuda, not the girl. Her, the one who no longer has a name. She walks barefoot across the courtyard. She isn't wearing the lead dancer's anklets. No bells, no fire, just silence. And yet, when she walks, every head turns. She stops beside the new girl. Doesn't speak. Doesn't smile. She just kneels. Takes the girl's trembling hands. Presses her fingers into the beginning of a mudra. The girl follows, and just like that, the training begins. Mainstream fact. In many temples, a former lead Devadasi, if she left or was demoted, would sometimes still be allowed to train the younger ones. Silent mentorship, a passing of rituals without ceremony, not redemption, just continuation. She speaks one phrase, "Don't dance for them, dance for her," and the girl nods. From behind the pillars you spot the matron watching. She doesn't interfere, she just watches. Like the goddess herself, you rise, walk to the edge of the courtyard, and in the dappled light of late morning you feel the temple exhale. It's not peace, it's just another breath. Because that's how this place works. It inhales new dancers, it exhales memory. And you walk to the gates. Your red thread has faded to pink now. Your turmeric marks have long since washed away. But the smell of oil, of stone, of wet jasmine, it clings. You leave the temple grounds, and the first thing you notice is how quiet the world is outside. No chants, no bells, no rules. You walk through market alleys. You pass children playing. You hear someone laughing from behind a curtain. You could keep walking. You could disappear into the noise, into a life that never danced around fire or carried other people's grace like a blade. But at the next corner you stop, because your shadow still moves like a dancer, because your steps still echo like footsteps on temple stone, because you will never unsee what you saw, not the feet that bled for rain, not the girl who asked for help, not the woman who gave up her name to hold the line. You think you've left the temple. You haven't. You're still carrying it, in your ribs, in your throat, in the rhythm of your breath. Because grace comes with rules, and the rule is, once you've seen it, you don't walk away clean. You walk away changed. You walk away carrying her. Forever. You've come a long way tonight. From the sun-scorched courtyards of Chola, India, to the quiet corners where rituals unfold without witness, where girls became vessels, and grace walked a tightrope between devotion and control. Now, as the fire dies down and the drums fade in your memory, Let your breathing slow. Let the clatter of anklets soften into a gentle ringing. The temple, towering and sacred, begins to dissolve behind your eyelids. Its stone cools, its shadows rest. You no longer feel the weight of oil on your skin. The jasmine scent fades into something sweet but distant. You're safe now, outside its walls, outside its rules. But what you carry from this place isn't burden, it's reverence. Quiet awe. A memory carved into your ribs like the dancers etched into the temple's foundation. They're still there, you know, curved in stone, silent in history, dancing forever in poses the wind alone can interpret. And you witnessed it. You survived it. You felt it. Let the last image be soft. A girl in silk, eyes closed, arms raised, not for applause, but for rain, for release, for grace. You've done enough tonight. It's okay to let go now. Close your eyes. Let your heartbeat match the rhythm of the rain that finally came. Let your breath find its quiet. Let sleep take you, gently, silently, as if your body too were part of a dance no one needs to see. Because now the temple rests, and so do you, 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 and so do you,